Self-serve, Mayor.
When I first ran against him,
How about
Is there, there's something new going around,
you better go to the waterfall.
or have I come in looking grungy or something?
Yeah, there's a new strain.
I haven't really been watching all of them. Were you on vacation last
Live.
time, John?
Mayor, we're on.
Oh, kinda, I went up to see about a farm we have up in Arkansas.
Okay, we're on.
Oh, hush.
Welcome,
Trying to
everybody.
turn it off.
I'm going to call this regular meeting of El Campo City Council to order. It's April 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. We have everyone here, so we can certify the quorum. Everyone would stand for the pledges and the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to represent the city of El Campo. Ask that you give us wisdom and discernment and help us make the best decisions possible for our citizens. Thank you for our staff, all of our department heads and all our staff members. Be with them and keep them safe. And be with our community members who maybe have needs. Ask that you address those as you would see fit. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we've got a couple of public hearings to start out. First one is a public hearing on utility rate increases as required by Section 1305 of the city charter. It's 6:02 p.m. I will open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone here that would like to address that? Okay, there being none, at 6:02 p.m., we will close that public hearing. Second public hearing is a special use permit 2024-02, revoking ordinance 2013-18, an application by the City of El Campo for revocation of special use permit previously authorized by ordinance 2013-18 to operate an RV park for non-compliance at approximately 1.83 acres of Ingham Block 3, 4, Lot 3A, 4A, 1, 4A to 1A, general location 1415 East Jackson, El Campo, Texas 77431. Is there anyone in the audience here to address this public hearing? This public hearing opened.
I found this on the web.
Sorry.
What is the audience here to address this public hearing?
Siri
Siri will talk to you about it.
She wants to
Siri wants to talk about it. Okay, I've opened that public hearing at 6:03. Okay, there being none, we will close that public hearing at 6:03 p.m. Okay, I don't have any cards for public comments. Is there anybody that wanted to make a public comment? If you are, you can fill out a card. I don't see anyone, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. The first one is approval of City Council regular meeting April 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. minutes. The second one is Resolution R 2024-19, authorizing intervention in AEP Texas Inc.'s application to amend its rider, mobile temporary emergency electric energy facilities before the commission, approving cooperation with the city served by AEP Texas, hiring Lloyd Gosling attorneys and consulting services to negotiate with the company and direct any necessary litigation and appeals. requiring reimbursement of city's rate case expenses, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed is open to the public as required by law, requiring notice of this resolution to the company and legal counsel. The third item on the consent agenda is ordinance 2024-07, adopting a water conservation plan and drought contingency and emergency response plan for the city of El Campo, Texas, to promote responsible use of water, providing penalties and/or the disconnection of water service for non-compliance with the provisions of the Water Conservation and Drought Contingency and Emergency Response Plan. It's a lot.
Yeah, thank you, State of Texas, for requiring all the language on that third item.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
A motion by Councilman Hodges. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who's that? Okay. Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion?
I have a discussion. I'd like to see us deny item number 3 on the consent agenda. I think that it's, I read the whole thing, and I think it's nuts that there's some state agency wanting us to figure out how we're going to conserve water when we have the pumping capacity, in an emergency, when we have enough pumping capacity to pump 3 times as much water as we ever use in this city. And our goal seems to be to sell as much water as possible, as opposed to talking people into not using water. I don't think there's any structural issue underneath the city of El Campo that'll ever cause us problems for water or for a need to conserve water until we get to be a town about 10 times this size.
You want to pull that out, number 3?
I would like to.
Vote on it separately?
That'd be the way to do it. Okay. We will pull number 3 out, so
But we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve this as presented.
we do. We have a motion and a second.
Can we move to amend the motion?
You can't, requires a 2/3 vote, right?
Well, you can amend, you can ask to have an amendment to his motion to approve the consent, to just approve it, and if he accepts it, then I'll vote on that. Okay. Vote on the amendment. I mean,
Yeah. You want me to take a crack at it?
yes, sir.
Go.
Mayor, I move to
Tab
amend,
in.
I move to amend the motion, such that we approve the, minutes from the regular meeting on April 8th and resolution R 2024-19.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Barger. Is there a
I'll second.
And a second by Councilman Hodges to
Amend the
amend the motion to include only items 1 and 2, approval of city council regular minutes and resolution R 2024-19. Discussion? All in favor of that motion?
I do. Does Mayor Pro Tem Bustamante have to amend his or his second?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you.
All in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay,
So you still need to vote on
so
the.
now we need to vote on items 1 and 2.
Yes.
So, do I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve items 1 and 2.
Okay,
We're on the table.
okay, so we can leave that the way it is?
Yep, and we just need to vote now. on
Okay,
the
because we had a motion by Hodges, a second by
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Bustamante. All in favor of approving items 1 and 2, please raise your right hand. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we can discuss ordinance 2024-07.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we not approve item number 3.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we have a motion by Councilman Hancock.
I think it's incumbent upon me to let you know that this is a mandate by TCEQ which regulates our water our water and our sanitary sewer. The deadline for the submission of this report is May 1st.
And what happens if we don't, if this motion passes?
And who gave them the right to mandate this?
I think that the state of Texas.
The state trumps.
Is there a state law giving them the mandate, or is this another one of these bureaucracies coming up with a rule?
We have no say that we're
Mr. Lewis is coming to the podium.
if it's mandated, why do we have to address it?
It's, Mayor and Council, it's implemented by the Texas Water Development Board and enforced by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So basically, if we don't file this and submit it by May the 1st, we'll be in non-compliance with our rules and regs and could possibly face daily monetary fines should they choose to pursue it.
So you think they have the authority to enforce monetary
They're
fines
well within
against
their
us?
rights to pursue it.
To what?
They are well within their rights to pursue it should we choose not to move forward with the adoption and passing it.
If we pass it and they tell us we have to do something, we can always vote no then?
Yes, sir. My recommendation would be to pass it so we can go ahead and submit it. As Ms. Slavin said, the deadline submittal is May the 1st.
Yes, sir.
But if they tell us to conserve, we don't really have to listen to them?
There's our bond counsel right there. This is our bond counsel, Mr. Jonathan Frills.
Mayor, members of council, I do not have the documents in front of me right now, but you do have a Texas Water Development Board loan, and I believe one of the covenants that you made in that loan document was to have a drought contingency plan, and water conservation plan. So it was a prerequisite and something that we've agreed to do as
Yes.
part of that ordinance. So I don't have it in front of me, but that's my, it's been a couple of years, since I've looked at that, so, but that's my recollection. Okay.
That was that's my thought about discussing this. I didn't know whether or not they actually had the authority to do anything, or we were actually compelled to do something. If you tell us, Jerry, if you tell us that we're absolutely obligated to do something that is as dumb as this for El Campo, then I'll rescind my motion.
Yes, sir. It's my opinion. I would recommend to move forward with it because should they see fit, they can force us to comply
Okay.
with it, or, we could face monetary compliance.
Thank you.
We don't need to rescind it, we just need to vote on
Well,
another
but
motion.
I do have a question though. So I think it's a little, so how was it prepared? It was by a group of engineers that took formulas and calculated based on formulas when, shouldn't we have taken in consideration the information that Mr. Hancock just presented? Shouldn't it be specific to our area as far as the water conservation?
We retained Strand engineers to do this, and in my financial impact, I note that how much we paid them for this study and the wastewater, also the wastewater treatment plant permit renewal. This is the same plan we've adopted every 5 years. It was written around the city of El Campo. It takes into consideration our information, our data, but it is a template that most cities use, but there is standard requirements by the provision for this report, and that's what's included for you.
That's correct. The template is built, the Texas Water Development Board is the one that built the template.
Mayor, I make a motion, we adopt ordinance
We got a motion on the
24.
floor, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Need to kill my motion.
Want to move on?
We got a motion.
we've talked about it, let's vote on it.
And they withdraw their motion, or should we vote on it?
So there was only was there a second?
Yes.
There was first and a second.
Councilman Ward seconded it.
Okay, that needs to go ahead and let that play out, whichever.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to deny ordinance 2024-07? All in favor of the motion to approve? No.
Motion is
To not approve.
Deny.
Okay, all in favor of the ordinance to deny ordinance 2024-07, raise your right hand. Okay. There was one. All in favor of the, that's it.
So that motion fails, but
Motion fails.
someone else can make another motion.
Okay.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 2024-07.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Hodges
That's what I thought.
and a second by Councilman Hancock to approve ordinance 2024-07, adopting a water conservation plan. Any discussion?
Are you sure we did the first part correct? Because we were voting, if you voted in favor of it, you're voting to deny it. If you vote against it, you're voting to approve it.
The motion was to deny it.
Right.
Right, and so that failed.
Yes, to deny. That's what Mayor.
Now the motion is to approve it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve ordinance 2024-07? Raise your right hand. Okay.
Now we got it right.
Unanimous.
Gentlemen, thank y'all for your advice on this.
Yeah. Okay. Items for individual consideration. The first one is ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of the City of El Campo, Texas tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2024, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, and enacting other provisions relating thereto.
We apologize for the ballot, the agenda language, but it's typically mandated to us, and so that's why you're seeing the long agenda titles. So this is the $8.565 million that we are requesting council to authorize this evening for the collapse line on South Wharton, the sanitary pipe, sewer pipe bursting on North Wharton, and the collective work on Town and Country. In the audience is Mr. Jonathan Frales, you met previously. He is our bond counsel, and James Gilly is our financial advisor. I don't know if you guys want to offer comments on the sale, or, go ahead, James, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, I'm James Gilly, representing the city's financial advisor with U.S. Capital Advisors. I believe there is a packet in front of you, summary of the bond sale. This morning at 11 a.m., we took bids from a number of underwriters across the country for the purchase of the city's certificates of obligation. As of the 11 a.m. deadline, the best bid, we received 4 bids, and the best bid going to Hilltop Securities, based out of Dallas, Texas. They submitted an initial true interest cost of 3.919325%, and that's shown on the first page of your packet. Turning to the next page, shows a kind of a distribution of the 4 bids we received. You can see that it was a pretty close bid. The high and the low bids were separated by about 6.5 basis points. All 4 bids were under 4%. We'd like to see that that tight grouping, because that tells us that the city got the best price for their bonds in the market today. Before the sale, we had a total of 6 underwriters signed up to participate, so the city got a lot of looks at this. So we advertised across the country, and so we think that this is a good result for the city. Now, Hilltop Securities offered to purchase the bonds at a premium to the city, so the final par amount will be $8,475,000. But assuming council approves the ordinance, the total funds that will be delivered to the city will be $8,565,000 to spend on its projects. Now, the packet contains the final debt service numbers, as well as the rating report from Standard & Poor's, which members of staff were instrumental in that bond rating. I encourage you to read through it. That starts on page 11. I don't want to get into too many details unless you have any questions, but if council approves the ordinance, the transaction's expected to close on May 22nd, about a month from now. Happy to take any questions. I turn it over to Mr. Frells for questions about the ordinance, but I think this is a great result for the city, and hope you're pleased as well.
Less than I thought it would be.
We were conservatively estimating somewhere in the mid 4% range, but very happy to get that under 4%.
Any questions?
You don't have much choice.
Someone like to make a motion?
Mr.
Mayor
Mayor.
Barbie.
And the motion would need to include
The numbers.
the number, or the percentage, and the,
No, you just need to adopt the ordinance.
need to adopt
It'll
the
be
ordinance.
incorporated inside the ordinance.
okay.
Mayor Barbie, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-08 as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Ward, second by Councilman Koblenz to approve ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of the City of El Campo, Texas Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation, Series 2024, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, and enacting other provisions related thereto. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to commend our city administration and our city's advisors on our assistance and our excellent bond rating and the interest rate that we're able to achieve because of that.
Thank you.
So noted.
I'd like to state that I don't like to do debt either, but I don't think we have a choice in this matter. We have to serve the citizens of El Campo.
Yes, I think we learned that line covers, what, 40% of our population?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve ordinance number 2024-08, please raise your right hand. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Item 7.2, ordinance 2024-09, an ordinance of the City of El Campo, Texas, revoking a special use permit for a RV park previously authorized by ordinance 2013-18. A special use permit hereinafter described tract or parcel of land lying and being situated at 1415 East Jackson Street, El Campo, Texas, 77437, located within the city limits of the City of El Campo, Morton County, Texas, being approximately 1.83 acres of Home Block 3, 4, Lot 3A, 4A to 1, 4A to 1A, for the purpose of operating a RV park. Would someone like to make a motion? Oh,
Let's let
Crystal,
yeah, Ms.
our planning
Hasselmeyer
director.
provide a brief presentation.
Good evening. In your packets is a full detailed staff report, so I'll just go over the highlights here. This is SUP 2024-02. It will be revoking the SUP that is awarded here on East Jackson. And this is the site where this is located coming into town. There's a gas station in the front, and then White Lodge Motel is to the left of that. In your report, it does have more additional pictures showing you more details. And here is the land use that's around it. It is on the edge of town, so this is listed as unzoned on the north side. But the rest of it is commercial with some residential. This was approved by ordinance 2013-18, and it had certain conditions and stipulations. Some of those included being current on license and registration, not staying on site for more than 180 days, having your tires inflated, and then no attached decks or porches, and having quick disconnect sewage, water, and electrical. And that's the kind where you're, like when you camp with your RVs, you can pop them in and out. In their violation history, we're currently in the formal violation process, so we did work with them to see if we could get some resolution prior to issuing formal violation process. That's always our first step. And currently, we have 4 violations that are on the record that are all pending determination as to whether we'll be revoking the SUP or not. Including the SUP violation itself. So the violations, at this time, there's only 15 RVs left, 12 of which we think are occupied, but at the time of the report, we had 1 of 23 fully valid according to the stipulations. It is no longer there. 2 of the RVs had a valid registration. 6 had no license plates. 2 were not visible to determine if their license plates were valid or not. 6 of them were attached to permanent plumbing sources. And the property owner and RV park manager could not provide verification that individuals who are occupying the spaces have been there for 180 days or less, or more. No information on that. We also have it for maintenance of the premises with 4 of the RVs having tarps on the roof. They're not maintained in a condition that could be hooked up and removed from their locations. There's also property trash and debris around at least 9 of your RV sites. It's overgrown with grass and weeds, and it had 1 junk vehicle. So just an update, we did go out this morning. We did hear from the person who's considered the property manager, who's one of the occupants, that they were not able to get any assistance from the property owner at the time, but that they were working towards trying to resolve some of the issues that we had discussed with them. And so at this time, we have 15 trailers remaining, and 3 are scheduled to be removed. Excuse me. The property has been mowed and cleaned of most of the debris. The permanent plumbing has been replaced with Quick Connect services. Most of the tarps were removed or removed with RVs that have been removed from the site. And registration stickers are not currently up to date yet, which indicates that the trailers have not been inspected yet by the county. But we did want to let you know that the tenants are attempting to try to clean the location up. The resolution options with this site, just so you have it for record, Planning and Zoning did recommend approval to revoke the SUP at their meeting this past week. And you all get to determine if you want to revoke it or not revoke it. If you do not revoke it, then we will start back with the violations that I mentioned earlier right now that are on hold for this determination. And then if it is revoked, then we would file charges with the court to have the property cleared. And at that time, the timeline would be identified by the court for getting that property cleared. And I did want to make a note that this does exclude the gas station, which is an allowable use. So we are not looking at that particular structure at this time. Does anyone have any questions?
Hasn't this been an ongoing problem for the city for years?
Yes, sir.
Seems like we've well, I've been on the council, even before I was on the council, it was an issue of, well, they had to do something there.
Was the planning and zoning unanimous?
On this one, yes.
That's why we
We did have
appoint
2
them.
members absent, though, I'm sorry.
That's why we appoint the planning and zoning. And I very seldom will vote against what they recommend.
Councilman Hancock, you are correct. That location has been an issue since 2013 when it was passed. We gave them, when I was on council, we gave them about 6 months to get in compliance because we passed that ordinance because of Pinchers and Lamco. And I don't believe they ever got into compliance. I think there's always been skirting around it. They put some asphalt or some rock around there for them to drive around. So it's been that way 10 years, 11 years.
People have been looking at that ugly thing for a long time.
I have a comment. I did drive through the area, and you know, it saddens your heart. I mean, I saw people out there trying desperately to clean up. These are families that are going to lose a place to live. So my opinion is that the history and the record of this business owner hasn't shown any kind of compliance at all. I think it's already gone too far too long. This is my opinion. And it shouldn't ever get to the place where someone has to settle in like that and then later have hardships because, that's okay.
No, go ahead. No.
Okay. That's just a comment from my standpoint and what I actually saw as I was driving through there.
What's the number?
I'm sorry?
What's the
Right here.
Approximately 12 occupants currently.
Well, no,
The
I'm-
ordinance
I'm gonna
number.
make a motion,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ordinance
I'm
number
gonna make a motion,
2024.
to approve ordinance 2024-09, revoking the SUP 2013 20, no, 2013-18.
There you go. You got it.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Ward, second by Councilman Barger to revoke ordinance. I guess that's revoking 2013-18?
Yes. Or revoking their
Yes.
SUP.
And approving ordinance 2024-09,
Kind of, yes.
kind of?
I have a question. How long will they have to move out?
It'll be determined by the court, but they're all kind of aware to be looking for new locations at this time, so it would not be an overnight or surprise
That's
thing.
what I was gonna say. Don't want it just said, get out of here. Give them time to find something else.
And I'm empathetic as well to
Mhm.
Councilman Kobolitz. I mean, it's not all their fault, and it is gonna be a challenge for some. The owner should have been more compliant and should have done the right thing, or the correct thing.
Any more
I got
comments?
One more question. If we revoke it and the owner goes back in there and does it like Lamco and Pinchers, does it right, can they come back and want to open an RV park there again with another SUP?
If we revoke it, they would have to apply for a new SUP
That's what I'm
in
saying.
order to install it. But if they install something before getting approval for a new SUP, then that would be a violation of the
That's what I'm saying. If we vote to revoke it, the owner can fix it up, then come back to us.
Make it look like pinchers.
Yes.
Well, we gave them a variance. We didn't require them to have concrete like some of the others. We gave them the ability to use with the understanding of the challenges that they were already facing. We allowed them to have some type of gravel. The city has been more than fair in this situation.
Eugene? No? Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Progress.
Okay, 7.3, fiscal year 23 audit.
Don't you love that title? It'll be easy to read. Mr. John Watson is here. He met with your finance committee prior to this meeting to present the annual comprehensive financial report placed at your station. And for those of you that were at the committee meeting, you have a copy. He's going to walk through his brief presentation tonight and answer any questions. You're not required to adopt this. You're required to receive it. So there will be no action requested on this item. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Courtney, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So our firm, Brooks Watson and Company, completed the audit over the year ended September 30, 2023. So the information I'd speak about relates to that period of time. Y'all, if you flip open or you can look at the screen here, I got a PowerPoint. I'm going to touch on high points of the audit. The audit was conducted consistently with U.S. GAGAS, that's Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards. It's a three-phased approach. The first phase is planning phase. We look at your current year results, compare them to prior year, compare them to our expectations, try to focus on areas we find most susceptible to risk of error or fraud. And that's where we do our fieldwork phase, where we test results, we vouch it to underlying evidence, we confirm balances with third parties, see if there are any differences. And if we identify differences, we propose audit adjustments, help prepare this report, and a couple letters I'll touch on at the end. So that is basically a quick overview of the audit process. Next slide. Oh, I just click over it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
You're right on it.
Now you're in control.
The report itself, there's 7 sections to it. First section is the introductory section. Has a letter from your management, letter of transmittal, discusses a bit about the city, where it's been and where it's going. And then audit opinion follows that. That's from us, discusses whether the financials are consistent with US GAAP or if there are any modifications. Management's discussion and analysis shows current year results compared to prior years, some explanations over changes year over year. The numbers follow that, the basic financials, They're presented on two different bases of accounting. Government-wide shows all your long-term debt, your capital asset activity, and then fund level, which is more consistent with how you budget modified accrual. Toward the back of your report, you've got your budget to actual schedules, your pension schedules, and then in the very back of your report, you've got your statistical section. Shows a lot of trends. You can see about last 10 years, a lot of changes year over year. So if you want to see where the city was 10 years ago and where how it's gone and where it is now, you can take a look at that. That's the report itself. I mentioned the audit opinion. There's 4 types of opinions you could receive: unmodified, modified, disclaimed, or adversed. Unmodified is the best report you can get, and that's what the city received. So that's the highest level of assurance the CPA can provide. It basically means there are no material errors or inconsistencies in this report we're aware of. Management and the city generally just gets better and better to work with for us each year. They're doing a great job of getting us information, and we're grateful for that. And that's why we're here to give that report today. Financial highlights. So again, this is September 30, 23, and the year ended the same. First bullet here, total assets exceeded total liabilities by about 24 million. Second bullet, the city's overall net position increased to about 2,026,000 for the year. Third bullet, city's governmental funds reported a combined ending fund balance of 6,561,000. That was an increase of about 1,170,000 for the year. The last bullet I have for you, unassigned fund balance in the general fund was about 5,642,000. That is about 54% of your annual general fund expenditures, so about a half a year worth of reserve there. So important metric to look at there. This is your governmental activities revenues. So it's a pie chart of your allocation of revenues. You can see governmental revenues for the current year, 13,558,000. Prior year was about 12.3 million. Property taxes make up 33% of your revenues, 4.5 million. Prior year was 36%, about 4,457,000. Sales taxes make up 39%, 5,339,000. Prior year was 38%, about 4.7 million. Grants made up 7%, 996,000. Prior year was also 7%, about 830,000. That was the revenue side. Your expense side for the governmental activities. Governmental expenses in total, 13,527,000. Prior year, it was close to 12 million. Your largest function expenses are public safety, 45%, 6,113,000. Relative to prior year, it was 5,071,000. Public works makes up 20%, 2,761,000. Prior year was 2,567,000. Your general government, 22%, 2,948,000. And prior year, it was about 2.4 million. Parks and Rec, 8%, 1,004,000. Prior year, 1,050,000. Okay, so that was mentioned 2 different bases. That was kind of the full accrual, so government-wide basis. This is a fund level, so more granular look at your activity. General fund is on the left column here. That's where the majority of your activity occurs. And then some debt service fund, capital project, and special revenue funds going left to right. Revenues at the top, expenditures just below that. Circled here is the net change. So what we see are positive numbers. So the revenues exceeded expenditures for each fund. Bottom left of that red circle there, you can see net change in your fund balance for the general fund, about 880,000. So that's feeding into that unassigned fund balance I mentioned earlier. That's about 6 months of reserve. That's feeding into that. Everything else is operating at a slight surplus or surplus. Your budget to actual, this is for the general fund where majority of the activity occurs. So in the left column here, we've got your final budget. So that's your original budget plus all budget amendments passed during the year. Actual results in the middle there, and then the variance between final budget and actual on the far right column. So bottom left, you can see you budgeted after all amendments a deficit of 221,000. You actually ended up at a surplus there of about 880,000 to the right there. And then top right, we can see how we got there. Total revenues came in over budget by about 418,000. That was primarily sales tax, and then investment income was also over budget. Expenditures was positive, so actual expenditures were less than budget by 793,000 total. Every function was below budget, so it all contributed there. This all fed into the positive overall budget variance here at the bottom right of about 1.1 million there. Okay, so that was the governmental side. This is the business type activities or proprietary funds. You have the utility fund on the left here, EMS in the middle, and then total on the right. So revenues again at the top, expenses in the middle there, and then have our income before transfers circled in red. So you can see both funds operating at a surplus there. The utility fund operating $1,761,601 surplus, and then the EMS $234,913. So both did have a surplus for the year. Your pension, this is a 4-year look. If you look at this page, the page reference there, I believe it goes back 8 years, but you can see the net pension liability position year over year. So bottom left is the current position. Your net pension liability is about $7.9 million. Significant increase year over year. You can see the prior year just to the right there, $3,458,000. The primary reason, I wish I would have circled in red now that I'm looking at it, is about, if you look at the bottom left, the 7.9, if you go up, say, about six rows, yeah, thank you, that's great. The 2.44 million there, the negative. Yep, right there, thank you for that. So you had a net loss on your pension assets for the year. This was for 2022, which wasn't a good year for the stock market. So they projected 6.75% return, and that's really an estimate over a long period of time. So we're going to have peaks and valleys, and this was a valley year. 2023, I imagine, will be a rebound. So that's really what feeds into here. There's going to be some ebbs and flows with the net investment return there. But first bullet item at the bottom here, so what does this all mean? Your funded ratio is still 80%. Is that good or bad? So funded ratio is simply what is the asset relative to the projected liability from the actuary. So the asset's 80% of that. Average in a nationwide study of government pensions in 2023 on a study by NCPERS was 77.8%. So they're still sitting just above average, even with that down year. So overall, still in a good position with the pension. Nothing from our perspective to be too concerned about. All right, so that kind of covers everything within the report, audit results. We also have some audit letters. Those are mostly standard communications. If we identified anything unique that we needed to share, fraud, theft, something of that nature, we put it in there, and I tell you, we didn't identify anything like that. Letters talk about us being independent, so we don't have any relationships with the city outside of this contract. The audit adjustments are listed within those letters. I feel like each year we get less and less audit adjustments, so I really feel like the city's doing a good job of working with us and taking our advice and things of that nature. The other letter relates to internal controls, so we make suggestions as we walk through your processes and your controls, and those are the suggestions there. Went over that with the audit committee quite a bit, but don't plan to get into whatever level of detail y'all want. That's everything I wanted to share with you today. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Any questions?
The audit will be available on our website pretty quickly as soon as we can get an electronic copy.
I have it.
Yep. So we'll get that out there so your citizens can see it.
We all have
Make that
copies.
available. We do. If you have any questions after tonight, feel free to reach out to us, and we can get you in touch with John. Just as a reminder, the auditor works for you, not for the staff, and so feel free to reach out to him at any time. You don't have to go through us on that one. Thank you,
I will
John.
reiterate, John already complimented our financial staff, but he also emphasized that during our finance committee meeting, so Brittany and Renee and everyone involved, thank y'all. Doing a good job. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item 7.4. I think the chief is up. Purchase of
Yes.
one unmarked police unit.
Chief, I'll let you walk them through this.
That's a hard act to follow.
I know.
Number one, the acronym is GAGUS. I don't know who came up with that one, but okay.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Previously, y'all had approved for us to buy an unmarked unit. The issue we found is that we went through the buy board, and my poor Captain Shear, I bug him all the time, and come to find out, they started giving us, they got a little iffy on delivery date, and I didn't want this thing to linger and linger, and next thing you know, next year, we're still waiting for a vehicle to show up, so we pulled the trigger, and we went a different route. We got 3 quotes, and we actually found a vehicle that is, will meet our needs, and it's a little cheaper, $1,517.61 cheaper than what y'all originally approved. So since we changed the process, we're asking for approval to move forward on this particular vehicle. I've been assured is actually on the lot, ready to be picked up. So once again, we're just trying not to have something wait for a year before we get it. And I will say the other vehicles you approved at this time were 2 marked units. We already have both of those. So I'm very pleased with the speed of getting those vehicles in. And I also, the one that was approved before I became chief, we just got it 2 weeks ago. So we've got all the vehicles that were on order now, except for this one. And we make the change, we ought to be able to pick it up very, very quickly, since Brittany can write us a check right away.
I was gonna say, that one bid, I got a kick out of it. It had an extra add-on, anti-theft.
Right. Yeah.
I got a kick out of that.
Right. They were pretty close. The bids weren't too far off, but I think on unmarked units, for the future, we'll probably go through a quote process. The buy board's better if we have the marked units, because they get built at the factory, and they're slower no matter what we do. We were fortunate last time the vendor we used actually had identified for us some vehicles that were out there available, and that's what we'll probably do in the future. We don't always get exactly what we want, but you could want it, and if they can't deliver it, it doesn't matter what vehicle you want. You know, you gotta get the one you can get.
I didn't realize the city had to pay taxes on them. I figured the city would be taxed.
There's a federal excise type tax that, the federal government, I'm not gonna comment on that.
Chief, I had a question. We're canceling the expedition.
Yes, sir.
Should we keep that on order or not?
No, because they actually kind of told us that we may not even get that produced. So there's no telling when it would ever come in if it came in. In fact, if it lingered too long, then they cancel it. So the production issue on those, there's some production issue with Ford, and we can't get it. Now, the issue is you can get vehicles if you want to pay $90,000. Those kind are available everywhere. You can pick those up all day long. But if you're going to get the one that's not the top end model, it's a much more difficult process.
That's the LS model you're talking about.
Yes.
Instead of the LT.
Right.
I noticed that they offered a discount. I bought a Tahoe last year and got zipped for a discount.
Right.
So you did a really good job on it.
Captain Shear, I'm gonna give him credit. I bug him a lot, and he really made a lot of phone calls, and he did a great job on that.
I thought it was a good value.
I sure like the looks of your new marked up vehicle.
I do too. I did want to, I'll say one thing related to this is I wanted to maybe change some of the other ones, but the cost was too prohibitive. So we're gonna stay with those till we eventually replace them all. But it was just too expensive to try to change that marking over on the ones we already have.
Does the motion require?
And I was gonna ask Courtney, where does the funds come from, Courtney?
Well, they're sitting in your fund balance right now. Okay. So they will either come from the fund balance, unfortunately, because this was something you previously authorized, or it will come from excess sales tax, how it will finish out this year. You do have quite a bit of salary savings in your department, yes, unfortunately. So it is
Number
possible.
of options.
Yes.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mayor?
Yes.
So I'd like to approve this purchase of one unmarked police unit and going from buying the original Ford Expedition to now a Chevrolet Tahoe.
Ron Kraft Chevrolet.
Ron Kraft Chevrolet in the amount of $61,000.
for $61,000, saving $1,517.61.
That's a long motion. Would somebody like to second that motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Koblenz, second by Councilman Hancock. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I'd just like to say one thing. I wouldn't take it out of the city's budget. I mean, the police department's budget. They may be less on payroll or whatever those are, but that may be needed, and that's already been a budgeted item. I think that the money or the funds need to come out of the general fund and not hope that our sales tax is higher. You have the money, take it out of the general fund, and let's just move forward.
The fund balance.
Or the fund balance, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the general fund balance, yes.
I agree. Our finance director would like to make a comment.
These were all budgeted to be paid for with excess sales tax from last fiscal year. So the initial car was approved last fiscal year, but it's not gonna come in.
Okay, so
So that's why the money's sitting in the general fund balance.
Yeah, that amount, that's why we put so much in the fund balance this year, is because so many of those large purchases didn't come in.
Okay. All right.
Essentially what you're asking us to do, or telling us to do, rather.
I just want to make sure it was cleared, because we said it was going to come out of this, or maybe this, or maybe this. Let's define it and move forward.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of a new unmarked police unit from Ron Kraft Chevrolet in the amount of $61,000. All in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Hancock, it's not going to be white and blue.
Unmarked.
Because we sold.
It's gonna be on.
Great.
All right, Mayor, let's.
Okay, item 7.5, authorize Promex cement for repavement work associated with Highway 71 water line not to exceed $150,000.
I'll try to tee this up the best I can. After Resicom completed the water line project on 71, part of their contract was to restore the pavement. And unfortunately, due to delays, we hired Promex to come in and do the work in place of them. Promex did an outstanding job, came in, you see the squares all over town. I'm asked constantly, what are those rectangles? And that's the areas they pulled out and they replaced it. But once they started finishing these, they started noticing them sinking and potholes, which is not acceptable on our side for your citizens or frankly anyone that drives through our town. And so they went back, and when they went to dig up to see what it is, they realized the fill inside these restoration site, it isn't there. It's at 1% of the required material that was specified in the bid docs to be there. So Promex has to go back in and put the correct fill in, that's limestone and the granular, and rebuild these. Unfortunately, now this is going to cost us up to $150,000, and that number is extremely excessive because I did not want to come back to you to ask for more funds. So that's a ceiling. Ideally, that number will come in much lower, but I will keep you apprised of where we are on that. In fact, I can bring this back to another council meeting just as a report to let you know where we are on the status of that. These funds should come through the performance bond of the contractor, Resicom, because this was part of their contract. And so we're going to be going after, our engineers will be going after that, and we're asking that you authorize this contract. It is over $50,000, so I'm required to get your approval on this one. Kevin can answer any questions. Jerry can certainly answer any questions about the water line. A few of the things that we noticed immediately, Kevin, Jerry, you may be able to speak more articulately than I on this, but the water lines where they were connecting, they were leaking. Is that inaccurate? What did you call it, Kevin? The
dresser sleeve.
The dresser sleeve, that when it was leaking, and so that was causing some issues with the backfill as well. And so we found a number of problems, and so this is an effort to fix those.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
So moved. I move we approve agenda item 3828.
Agenda items 7.5.
Hmm? Am I saying it wrong? I'm looking for it.
Yeah, the headline up there, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
We authorize Promex Cement for repavement work associated with Highway 71 water line not to exceed $150,000.
Okay. Would like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Hancock, second by Councilman Barger. Any discussion?
I do.
Okay.
Who was responsible for the oversight of this project? I see that we mentioned the engineers, but do we have, was city staff, was it the engineer, city staff, or?
It's part of our engineering contract, Mr. Ward.
Okay, I can say from experience and seeing, I only saw a young lady on the Betty Street, Maple Street twice during the entire time they were there. I think that going forward, we need to hire a project manager or include a project manager so that he or she is responsible. I think it gets into a fuzzy area with an engineer doing the engineering work and then also the contractor doing the work and then putting the city in the middle. We're hiring these groups to do a service for us, and we need to have someone that's going to be able to hold everyone together and accountable.
One of the policies that we instituted just because of this is getting one of our staff to make sure, even during this restoration, is that they go down deep enough to make sure that it's put back properly. In the future, like we had discussed, that every project that comes through, we need to have eyes on the ground. We have a couple of our own experienced staff, actually, that will be there in accordance with the, in addition to the engineers' staff being there.
I still think you need to go further because it's still, you are staff, you are the city. You are it's no different than me building, or someone building a home for me. I may not have that experience, but if there's a situation like this, it's your word against their word. If you have an independent individual, that person can stand more firmly in defense of, yes, the project was done correctly, or no, it wasn't.
And at the same time, that would help bring it in at a better budget, because your
Absolutely.
construction manager at risk would take care of that.
So my experience too, I mean, it appears that the way we found out that it failed is because it started dipping. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
The second part, yes.
Okay. So there was not any kind of testing done, like compaction or densities, and so it just waited till it failed to know that it was bad?
We haven't done a final walkthrough on the project. We have not closed it.
It was actually the contractors brought it, they said something's not right, and that's when they came back, brought a meeting up, and said we need to look at this a little deeper.
Okay.
And that came up.
City attorney question. You feel we're gonna get that $150,000 back?
Assuming everybody's still in business, yes.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Okay. Any further discussion? Well, we have a motion and a second to authorize Promex Cement for repavement work associated with the Highway 71 water line not to exceed $150,000. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're down to reports. First one is the FY24 second quarter report.
It's included in your packet is the investment departmental and financial reports. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on that. Now, later, however you'd like to. Just another note that this includes now our financials straight out of our financial software. We used to pull it out and summarize it and condense it, and now we just pull the entire report out so you can see every single line item. We find that that's quite a bit more transparent. And then there's our departmental quarterly reports.
Okay, well, if y'all have a question later, feel free to contact the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
8.2 is the city manager's report.
I only have a few things. Our Touch a Truck event is on May 11th, and early voting began today. So that is for our at-large positions. Election day is May 4th. That is all I have for you tonight.
Okay. We're fixing to go into closed session. Would anybody like to take a short break before we do that? Okay, I think so.
I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay, well, we're gonna,
But they got it.
There you go. You want to go ahead and close it out?
should we go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
It is 7 PM and we're closing the open session and going into closed session.
For the record.
And for the record, we're Hello, TV land. It is 8:47 PM. We are going to leave executive session and return to open session. I'm going to take these one at a time. I did not get to read these before we did close earlier. The first item in executive session was closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, Annual Performance Evaluation of the City Manager. Would someone like to make a motion in regard to?
I make a motion, we increase the salary of the city manager by 3.5%, effective April, is that right?
It can be.
Effective immediately, that better?
April 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Hodges, a second by Councilman Koblenz. The city manager, Courtney Slottick, following her evaluation, receive a 3.5% raise effective April 1st, 2024. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All against, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-1. Item 2, closed executive session pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, Information Technology Director. Someone like to make a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve the hiring of Clint Kaysen in the amount of $84,000.
Okay. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Barger, second by Councilman Hancock, that Clint Kaysen be offered the position of Information Technology Director at a salary of $84,000. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, that passes 7-0. Item 3, closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.073, deliberation regarding a prospective gift or donation to the government body. There will be no action taken on that item. Item 9.4, closed executive session pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney. There will be no action on that item. The fifth item, closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.087, economic development negotiations, Project Spur. There will be no action taken on that item. That completes the agenda. It is 8:51 PM and we're adjourned.